Welcome back to another episode, everyone. I apologize if my voice is a little raspy. I'm still getting my butt whooped by a small flu, but hopefully we're getting better. Today, we're actually going to be talking about a subject that is very near and dear to my heart because it's something that I've been practicing for the better part of 5 years, and that is fasting and its influence and benefits on the human body. So I actually wanted to start by obviously defining what fasting is as the voluntary abstinence of food and sometimes including water. Now, there are various types of fasting. The most common, which is what I've been practicing, is known as intermittent fasting, which means you have a dedicated feeding window and then a dedicated fasting window. And there's also, for example, water fasting, where you will only drink water, or in fact, it could be the opposite, where you don't even drink water. And then there's, of course, religious types of fasts like Ramadan or Yom Kippur. Now, there is a lot of historical significance around fasting. Fasting has been around for millennia and across a variety of different religious practices. So there are religious reasons, like I mentioned, there's spiritual reasons, and of course, there are health reasons. And historically, for example, figures like Hippocrates and other religious figures like Buddha and Jesus were also have known to fast for extended periods of time to, in a way, purify themselves. Now, there is actually a lot of science behind fasting, and it has been proven to drastically improve your body's function and your response to insulin sensitivity, weight gain, metabolism regulation, fitness in many cases as well, mental clarity. So the mechanism behind how this works is by shifting the body from the consumption of glucose as a fuel to fats. And this is a process known as ketosis. For example, also, fats, when burned as a fuel, go through something called gluconeogenesis, where the fats are broken down to produce the very sugars that you are typically ingesting from carbohydrates. So in fact, one way or another, your body is going to get those carbohydrates that it requires, whether it's from an external source, from you eating a carbohydrate or something, or from your internal fat stores. So that's why I find in myself that it's much easier to make progress in terms of dieting whenever I include intermittent fasting as part of my regimen. There is also a Nobel Prize winning study released in 2016, which studied the influence of autophagy, which is a process activated by fasting where cells remove and recycle waste. And this has been potentially shown to reduce the risks of diseases like cancer and Alzheimer's. In fact, there are a plethora of studies that show autophagy is almost a way to recycle and get rid of old dead cells that are clogging your system in a way, for lack of a better term. So it is in a way your body is going through and removing any toxins that are present within you. Now, of course, there are a plethora of health benefits related to fasting. And first and foremost, the one that everybody is interested in is in weight management. And studies have repeatedly shown that intermittent fasting can lead to a pretty significant reduction in weight over a 24 or 48 week period, roughly in the range of 5 to 8%. And that is very significant for most people that are looking for a way to effectively not restrict the foods that they're eating, but also manage to drop their weight into something that maybe they feel a little bit more comfortable about. And now there is a lot of stigma related to why this works. Many people argue that it is in fact your body going through autophagy and gluconeogenesis and using your fat stores and depleting you and basically losing weight that way. But on the other side, it can be looked at more from the calories in, calories out perspective. If you're limiting the amount of time that you're able to eat throughout the day, then more likely than not, you're not going to be eating as many calories as you were before. So regardless of the pathway you get that you end up losing that weight, you're still losing that weight, which is a benefit that a lot of people find very, very nice, especially when, for example, I go to diet down in the summer. I always employ a certain strict level of intermittent fasting because I find that it's so much easier to maintain my hunger when I'm not even thinking about it. Now, the other big bonus is that it improves our insulin sensitivity. And fasting can typically reduce blood sugar by 3 to 6% and increase your insulin levels by 20 to 30%. And this is fantastic in terms of diabetes management and hunger management. By increasing your insulin levels, you're increasing your sensitivity to insulin. And that matters a lot because insulin, it spikes when you have access and when you've eaten something that's very high in carbohydrates or processed sugars or whatnot, and it's what gives you the feeling of satiety. So when you don't have insulin sensitivity, it means that you can eat without your body giving yourself and your mind the feedback that you've eaten. So by increasing sensitivity, it in effect makes your body more aware to the foods that you're eating and can send those signals to make you feel full faster. And of course, we also have to talk about fasting's influence on brain health and the neurological benefits. Fasting has been shown to increase brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. And this has been shown to support brain health and lower the risk of depression and other mental disorders. And this is something that is clearly seen by the more devout religious practitioners, because they are the ones that always exhibit the highest level of self-control in terms of mental clarity, in terms of emotional stability, and even in my own case, whenever I have gone through periods of real hardship, where I feel like everything's out of control, funnily enough, the idea and the feeling that I achieve once I'm fasting for a prolonged period of time almost alleviates those external influences of stress, because it almost brings your attention inwards to yourself again. So in one way or another, it's helping you be more mindful within your own emotions. Now, fasting also has been shown to increase longevity. And this is something that is also very interesting and is quite a novel field of research that is currently being explored. But animal studies have suggested that fasting can drastically extend lifespan. For example, a study on rats that fasted every other day lived 83% longer than those that were not fasting. And this can be attributed to cellular repair and something known as hormesis. So by this we mean that fasting acts as a typical mild stressor, and that triggers cellular repair processes, which improves your overall cell function and their longevity. Because in a way, you're subtly activating your fight or flight response, which is keeping your body in complete check. In other words, everything is working at its optimal efficiency. It's making sure that you have constant access to oxygen to all of your blood vessels, all of the old, dead, non-needed cells are being recycled, they're being used, your body is going through autophagy like I mentioned, so your body is constantly being checked to make sure that it is functioning at its optimal level. Now, there are also mental and emotional benefits to fasting. Like I mentioned a little while ago, mindfulness and mental clarity are actually pretty much improved when you're fasted. And many have reported that they feel a sense of emotional balance and heightened mental clarity whenever they're going through this practice, more likely than not, because it's a way to introspect on the way that you're currently feeling. Additionally, there's also the emotional resilience and discipline aspect of things. And regular fasting can foster a sense of discipline and control. In other words, you're building that momentum and that trust within yourself that you can do something that is objectively difficult. Whenever we get that sense of hunger, it's often hard to ignore it. But I think it's very important to realize also that those spikes of hunger are just a spike in your hormone, in the hormone known as ghrelin. And once you get a spike of that hormone, let's say around your regular lunchtime, afterwards it does subsides, and that hunger that you might feel completely ravenous does in fact pass, but you just need to endure through it. And that's part of the reason that I think that it actually really goes a long way into helping you tackle challenging things, because it's a battle basically within yourself to get this done. So I wanted to offer a few practical tips for people that would actually like to try fasting. And for those that have never done it before, I recommend starting with a shorter fasting period. So typically the traditional split for intermittent fasting is 8 hours of feeding to 16 hours of fasting. But this might be a little bit challenging for many, so it's very open to start doing a 12-12. In other words, 12 hours of allowed eating and 12 hours of fasting, and then gradually building up from there. In fact, even if that's too much, you can just start by decreasing the amount of time that you're allowing yourself to eat just by a couple hours at a time. And from there, you can kind of feel how your body is reacting and build off of that momentum again. In fact, at some point when I was fasting for a very long period of time, I actually got myself up to a 1 meal a day diet. So in other words, I was basically allowing myself to eat for 2 to 3 hours max, and then fasting for the rest of the day. And I was hitting all of my best lifts during that period. I felt fantastic. I felt like I had all the mental clarity in the world. And as long as I made sure that I was getting the adequate nutrition that I needed to fuel my body in that window, everything else was very fine. It's also important that you drink plenty of water during this time. So I think breaking the fast with a light meal and making sure that you're having sufficient amounts of water throughout the day, or just black coffee or tea, can really help go a long way in terms of making you feel satiated for the most part, and also help keep your body hydrated. And I really do think that people would be surprised to see the influence that it can have on your body. I really think that it's something, once I started, I could never go back. I really do think it's one of the easiest ways that you can just kind of melt off the extra weight without having to try too hard. Just simply because you're either eating less, you're eating within a restricted window. I would always train in the morning, which means I would always train fasted. So I always feel like I'm less lethargic. I'm not carrying weight. I just feel so much better. So I really hope that this is something you guys can give a shot, and let me know what you think. See how your body is reacting over the next few weeks, and yeah, see how it goes. I hope that this can be something that can really positively change your relationship to your body for the better. So yeah, that's everything, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in this week, and I am very excited to see you all in the next one. Peace.